We are now going to hear about ACIA, so Africa Climate Action Initiatives, and how they focus on policy, education, and capacity building. So we're going to learn more about this from Kwame Anane Frempong. He's the founder of the Pan-African Center for Climate Policy. And Kwame has done quite a lot of things in his life. He's worked for the government of Ghana Youth and Employment Ministry. His initiative, Kwafa International, has contracts all over the world and provides services in education, consulting, market entry in West Africa, and tourism development. He has a postgraduate certification in public health from the University of Roehampton in London, UK. And he is a serial entrepreneur, a climate solution enthusiast with over 15 years of experience in project management and in educating and training others. More recently, he's been working on the ULEAD project in Calabar, Cross River State, Nigeria. Kwame, thank you for being with us and sharing more of the concrete actions we can take.
Yeah, so I'll be looking at policy education, the cornerstone of a sustainable Africa climate change initiative. I believe that when the idea of ACI came into mind, one of the areas that ACI was looking at is to how to kind of strengthen policy formulation and policy implementation in Africa, and also how to make sure that education, formal, non-formal, and informal, is mainstreamed in our educational system. Yes, we can talk about all beautiful initiatives, but if we don't have a good educational system, we don't have a good policy, most of the ideas will not have a very sustainable root in Africa. Africa is often described as a continent most at risk to the negative effect of climate change. According to the Climate Change Vulnerability Index for 2015, 7 of the 10 countries most at risk from climate change are all from Africa. Why? The perceived lack of what? Capacity from Africans and their government to fight climate change. We are looking at impacts on agriculture and food, impact on human health, impact on shelter, impact on national security, and impact on vulnerable population. The list goes on and on and on. So these are some of the proposed solutions that we have to drive ACAI initiative. We are looking at biotechnology. We are looking at research at all levels, policy review, and education at all levels. We're also looking at the thematic areas for climate change education and consideration, advancing policy, transforming learning and training environment, building capacities of educators and trainers, empowering and mobilizing youth, its core component, accelerating sustainable solutions at all levels. Again, we are looking at the various channels, and under Article 4, Paragraph 1 of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the parties came up with these thematic areas. For the sake of time, I wouldn't want to go into details, but once the presentation is out there, you might want to go through it. Education, training, and public awareness, and it's very much explained in this document. Where has this worked? Inside Africa. Ghana added climate change to the curriculum of basic education. So far, Ghana has trained over 600 primary school teachers on climate change and green economy. The Ghana Education Service introduced climate change into all subjects of new primary school curriculum, particularly science, and that's a huge step. South Africa, through the Keep Cool project, built teachers and school leaders of secondary schools capacities to make climate change education part of the school and classroom practice. Mauritius has about 250,000 students are learning about climate change and environment in their school lessons. And in Kenya, systematic integration of education for sustainable development into the country's educational policies. And in Madagascar, disaster risk reduction mainstreamed into the curriculum. So these are very interesting areas to look at. Again, yes, we still need to improve. The Pan-African Center for Climate Policy. We have a vision to achieve for Africa a cleaner and safer environment in line with the UNFCCC protocols and policies. Climate change policies, creation, training of climate change core, next slide, members across Africa. We work with community-based organizations, government organizations, non-governmental organizations, private practitioners, environmental rights groups, and individual planners. How are we involved in creating a path towards a regenerative future? These are some of the projects that we've done over the years. Case study in Nigeria, reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation in Cross River State, Nigeria. Our approach was using our climate change manual to train volunteers, hosting capacity building workshops for National Youth Service Corps students to help reduce emissions and enhance livelihoods. And in Cameroon, we have the mangrove degraded site in Cameroon. The approach, we've tried to implement educational, again, and awareness raising workshops, distribution of seedlings to farmers within local communities to engage to encourage agroforestry, and setting up a committee to carry out planting of mangrove wildland along the degraded mangrove landscape. And in Ghana, we developed the Rural Dweller Project. Another Rural Dweller Project, we have training volunteers and communities on the use of climate change manual in primary schools. So on the picture there, you see one of our international volunteers from Canada, and Adam Ernst, who is a teacher, was working in Ghana with our local partners to kind of introduce our climate change manual to schools. And we're very happy that the government of Ghana has taken up the initiative to introduce climate change in the educational curriculum at the primary level. And we encourage other countries to do the same. Why is climate change education important for policy formulation? And the answer is straightforward again, is to raise a generation of competent persons for effective climate actions. So we have the stakeholder involvement. We have schools, we have researchers, we are looking at politicians, NGOs, activists, local authorities, business sectors, religious bodies, all coming together to have the competent and effective climate change policy and education. And my final class. In conclusion, climate change is significantly impacting upon the education sector, and education in its broader sense has a critical role to play in response. And let me quote Sir Nicholas Stern, my favorite quote: fostering a shared understanding of the nature of climate change and its consequences is critical in shaping behavior, as well as in underpinning national and international action. Educating those currently at school about climate change will help shape and sustain future policymaking and a broad public and international debate. It also supports today's policymakers in taking strong action now. Thank you very much.